Okay, today we're going to show you how to take a radiator off of a 2001 Dodge Caravan with a 3.3 liter engine. It makes a difference when you get the radiator. First thing you need to do is you need to disconnect the negative battery terminal on this side. Always disconnect the negative battery terminal. Next thing you do is you have a cover. I've already taken it off. You have a cover that goes right here up underneath. It's not difficult. It'll go underneath the grill right here, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws, and it's a Phillips head screwdriver, and you pop that out. Okay, and then you've got this bar right here that goes across, and it has 13mm bolts in it. Okay, and then you want to take the 4 13mm bolts out, move the hose from on top of it, and then you pop this off, and you can move it. As a matter of fact, you may want to well, you can just set this up on top. Just be careful with it and set it right on top there. Be careful that you don't break anything, and take your time. Okay, next thing we're going to do, you don't have to do exactly in this order, but the next thing we want to do is we want to disconnect the electric fans. You have little red clips on these fans, and if you can get behind them and push them out with a pair of pliers, it'd be good. And then once you get them started coming out, or a screwdriver, then you can pull them the rest of the way out. These are locks for the clips. You take the lock out before you can take the clip off. And there's 2 fans. And it's going to be kind of difficult, but it's okay. Just be patient. You'll get it. There you go. There's one. Set it right up there. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Okay, and this is the other red clip. You got a red lock on each fan motor. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take and push your little clip back here to snap this plug off. Okay, you have this little piece right here, and you'll push in on it, and this plug will pull right off. Now you may be able to take the fans out just a little bit if you can't quite reach them, and to get the plugs off, but be careful. Try not to pull on them wires too much if you can help it. It's probably better to take it off while it's down in here if you can reach it. Okay, now you got 2 bolts that hold these radiator cooling fans in. After you clip the wires off, they're 10mm bolts. Now, if they're a little hard to get out, a little rusty, just take your little spray oil and put it down on there, or a couple little drops of oil and put it down on there, and the bolts will come out a little easier. They bolt in the top, and they slide in these clips on the side and on the bottom. Be careful taking them out. Be patient. No need to be in a hurry. Slides in on one end, and then has a clip on the bottom right there that it slides into. And the other one is the same way. They both come out the same way. It's fairly easy. Make sure you unplug them before you try to pull them out. Okay, next thing we need to do, you took those fans off. You got a couple screws that hold your AC condenser to the radiator. 10mm screws, one on this side and one on this side. Now, once you take those screws out, there's 2 little holes at the bottom of this. It's made in the radiator, and this slides out away from the radiator. It actually slides into a couple holes. This condenser does, made on the bottom of the radiator. And what you need to do is carefully pull up on this and slide it out of the holes on both sides. Be patient when you're doing it, okay? All right, and then that pulls the condenser away from the radiator. All right, and then you want to take your overflow hose out, or the hose that goes to your tank, your reserve tank right here. Take it off, and then you want to take these hoses off. Now you can use a bigger pair of pliers or vice grips or something. Just be patient. Especially putting the new one on. You don't want to damage the new one when you're putting it on. You damage the old ones, oh well, no big deal. Okay, and then you got a bottom radiator hose over here on the passenger side. Same kind of clamp on it. I've already taken the clamp off. You take the clamp off and you work that hose loose with your hand. It's on plastic, so they should break loose pretty easy. Okay, I took the bottom radiator hose off, and I just took the top radiator hose off. Just move it back out of your way right there. Now, if I'm not mistaken, unless there's something else, another surprise, this radiator should lift right out of here. Move your wires and stuff out of the way. Try not to damage anything. The radiator fits into a couple little slots at the bottom. Be real careful with your air conditioning hoses, that you don't get caught and jerk on them and break one of your air conditioning lines and lose all your freon. That'll cause you a big headache. Just be patient getting this radiator out of here. It'll come, just take your time.
Go ahead.
Okay, here's your radiator. We have the old one out. Push it, pull it, tug it, move it around back and forth, and you'll be able to bring it out of there. But be patient when you do, so you don't break an AC line or hit the condenser or something like that and mess up your air conditioner. Now we're going to install the new one. Okay, and sometimes on some radiators you have to transfer stuff, or they'll give you new hardware to put on. You got to put these on because this is what holds your fan on the bottom. Just take them and press them in if you can. You may have to spread them just a little bit to get them in there. Hold on just a second. Let me get a screwdriver and spread it out and put it in there. Okay, now you may have to use something to push them in. Be careful, because you don't want to mess up your little your radiator fins here. You punch a hole in that, well, your new radiator will be shot. Just be patient and push it down on there hard as you can, and there you go. It'll go right on there. Now, the radiator sometimes comes with new hardware, like these right here have to come off. Let me get a screwdriver, and we'll pop those right off. Okay, use a screwdriver, pop that off. It's got a little locking tab that keeps it from coming off on its own. Use a screwdriver in behind it, pop it up, bring it off. A little difficult sometimes, but just be patient, you'll get it. Okay, I took these little clips off. You need these because your fan's attached to this. And on the back side, I took them off the old radiator. Some radiators come with that stuff, and it had a couple, but not enough. Back side, this is where your condenser screws onto your radiator, and the bottom of the condenser fits into these little holes right here once you put the radiator down in there. Just work it down in there patiently, and lift the condenser up. You may need somebody to help you, you may not, and just put it right in those holes, and then put the bolts in. Now, be careful. Wherever you take a bolt out of a radiator, put that bolt back in the same hole. This radiator is not that big of a deal, but if you put a bolt in the radiator that's too long, it'll screw through here and go right into that tank, and you've ruined your radiator. So wherever the bolt comes out, put that bolt back in the same place, and that'll keep you from having an accident like that. Okay, you have these little rubber mounts here that go on the bottom of the radiator. The new one doesn't. If the new one doesn't have these, take them off the old radiator and put them on the new radiator. Make sure they're on there before you try to put this radiator in. This is what holds it to the front frame and pads it from the shock. If you try to put the plastic in there without these, it'll tear the radiator up eventually. Okay, be careful putting this radiator back in. Work it in slowly. Move the hoses out of the way. You don't want to break your little pipe coming off your reservoir there. And then once you put this radiator in, it'll go in the holes in the frame down there in the body. Then you'll lift this condenser up, and you'll put it in, and you'll lift it up, do it gently, and then work it into the holes on the back of the radiator right here. you'll put that condenser in these holes right here. Okay. Now you're gonna have to work with it and be patient, and you'll know when it's down in there. When you get those down in there, the bolt holes right here where you put the bolt in, they'll line up perfectly. So if you don't get it, you know, pull it back out a little and move it around and just be patient, and it'll work right down in there. And that way you don't tear up your new radiator or your AC condenser. Okay. I put the bottom radiator hose on there, clamp. Be careful working down in here so you don't mess up your radiator. And I'm going to put the top one on. Take these covers off and put the top hose on too. A lot of radiators you can't do this till you get other stuff on, but on this it's good. Alright, we're going to take a piece off of the old radiator and put it on this new radiator, so this hose will fit in it, and then the hose goes right on there like that, but you have a little piece that holds the hose right there. Okay, now we got the radiator in, we got the condenser bolted to the radiator. I put the clamps back on the hoses. You may find it easier to buy you some clamps that you can use a screwdriver with to screw them on than trying to clamp these manufacturer hoses back on here. Okay, I put this little piece in top of here out of the other radiator. Now this also has a rubber piece that goes here, but this new radiator doesn't have the holes to put that rubber flap back on there. It's not important anyway. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the fans on. Now these fans have these slots right here that go right in here on the side of the radiator, and this part goes right into those new pieces that I put on down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide it in there, both sides. Okay, it's slid in both sides. Now make sure you get it hooked on the bottom so that fan doesn't flap around everywhere on the bottom. Okay, and then you're gonna put your screws. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put the other fan on there, and then put the screws. Okay, this one has the same thing. It's a fan on both sides. It's got the little slot here and the slot on the bottom. Move your wires out of the way. That way you got everything you need. Slide the fan back in there. Be careful not to hit the fins on your radiator. This job, needless to say, this job it takes time, and you just have to be patient. And that way you don't tear anything up. Okay, got them on there. And then we're going to put the plugs in. You'll plug it in. And the plug, of course, you'll hear it snap. Well, it's in there. Just pull it back. It didn't actually snap, but it's in there. Okay. Alright, now we have these little red clips, these little locks that go in here. It clips on, the plug does, so if the lock is broken and won't go in there, you know, if it shatters coming out because it's deteriorated from the heat, don't worry about it. The plug clips on there anyway. And you may have to get a pair of pliers and put it over the plug in this and just gently squeeze it, and it'll push the plug, it'll push it right in there if you can't push it in with your finger. Okay, now I got the little red clips in there. That's not that important, but if you do put them in, just be careful that you don't break these plugs trying to put them in. Remember, this stuff been in here for a while, and this plastic is brittle. I took a pair of pliers, and you got to kind of grab it. You can use needle nose pliers, that way the bottom part isn't in the way when you push that lock back in there, and just kind of maneuver around and push it in. But you might be able to push it in with your hands. A lot of times I can do that. Okay, now we're putting these bolts back in the top of the radiator fans to hold them back on. And don't forget to plug your fans in. And make sure that all the wires are out of the way, so when you put your radiator fans and all back on, you don't find your plug stuck in between the fan and the radiator or something like that, and you have to take it back apart. So you take these two 10mm bolts, put the electric fans back on, and like I said, you'll see the slots that electric fans go in. And try, like I said before, make sure you try to put the bolts that came out of wherever they came out of, try to put those bolts back in that exact same place. Now you don't have, just tighten it down. You don't have to torque it where you strip it or break anything. Okay, and I put this hose on there. Now the last thing we have left to do is put on the cross member here. Okay, now we're going to put the cross member back on here, and make sure you line up these little posts that come out of the radiator with these mounts here. It's like a motor mount, but it's a radiator mount, and they're rubber, and you put them right in there like that. Make sure both of them are in there, because that's what holds the top of your radiator. And then screw your bolts in. Now anytime you start bolts, I've said this before, always start them with your hand. That way you don't cross thread anything. You don't mess anything up, strip it, or cross thread it. Start it with your hand, because it's not going in easy. You can always back out and put it in again. So, and these are 13mm bolts, and the bolts that are holding the radiator and stuff and the condenser are 10mm bolts. I think I've already said that, but I'm just reminding you. And then we'll tighten these down, and after we tighten these down, we'll put the cover back on. The cover will go here with the hole for the radiator. I'm going to take it back off to tighten it back down. You'll have to slide it up underneath this handle. It might even be easier to put the cover on while you have that cross member. Just stick the cover in there so you can get it underneath this handle. I believe that's what I did when I took it off. Okay, you may want to put this plastic down in here and then put the cross member on because of the hood latch. It might be easier. And then get the bolt started right here, and then you got your all your small bolts that go in here. And don't tighten anything down until you get all your bolts started, because you may have to kind of try to shift this grill around a little bit, all this stuff, move it around some, and it'll be a lot harder to move it around and get everything, the holes lined up, if you have these bolts tightened down already. Now I've already put these 13mm in the cross member and tightened and torqued them down. That's no big deal. We get all the bolts started, and once you get them started, this takes a Phillips screwdriver. Then once you get them started, it's probably a good thing to tighten these up first, and then tighten up your 10mm bolts, and then put your antifreeze in it, and put your cap on it. Put at least a gallon of antifreeze, depending on how much you have in there. If it holds 3 gallons of fluid, put a gallon and a half of antifreeze and a gallon and a half of water. You can always add a little more antifreeze than water. And there's also going to be some antifreeze left in the block, so a gallon of antifreeze should take care of it. It may be a good idea, depending on how bad it is. I've been into this system not too long ago and flushed it, but it may be a good idea to flush your radiator and your block out, and flush it before you put the new radiator in. If it looks really bad, you probably should do that. So that's it. And tighten down a few bolts and we're done. Thanks for watching.